Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we will talk about chapter 4. But before we start, let's look at the bottom lines of chapter 3. In the beginning of chapter 3, Rasandal wanted to ride alone through the streets of the old town. Then Princess Flavia said that the king looked different that day. She couldn't believe that he really had changed. And also, she said that she was surprised to know that the king rode alone through the old town. Sapt and Rosendal decided to go back and collect every soldier in Strelso. Why? To catch Michael before killing the king. And finally, at the end of chapter 3, they went. So Sapt and Rosendal went back to Strelso to continue the game they started, that Rasandal was the king. In the beginning of chapter 4, Colonel Sapt asked Rodolph Rasandal to continue pretending to be the king, so as not to give Michael the chance to take the crown. Rasandal thought that was too dangerous, because people might realize that he wasn't the real king, and Princess Flavia said that the king had changed. And Colonel Sapt thought that even if the real king were dead, Rasandal would stay the king. Michael's men came to bury Joseph's body in order to hide their evil work. Rasandal knocked one man off his horse, then hit another man with his sword. Michael's men wanted to trap Rasandal, but he wasn't able to escape through a gap between the men. One of Michael's men shot Rasandal and he felt a terrible pain in his finger. So, what happened at the palace? Sapt told Rasandal all about the king's duties. Rasandal realized it was so hard to be a king, and it was even harder to pretend the king. Then Rasandal was very worried when he met the French ambassador, because he asked him a question that he couldn't answer. So pay attention that the question the ambassador asked Rasandal, and he couldn't answer the question. Then Rasandal told everyone that he couldn't write because of his finger. So many important documents weren't completed because of his finger. Michael wouldn't kill the king because he knew that if he killed him, Rasandal would stay as the king. Then Rasandal said they couldn't accuse him without admitting that they kidnapped the real king. So, first, they must admit that they kidnapped the real king. So now they can't accuse him. Fritz said that no one could do anything. It was a stalemate. And what's the meaning of a stalemate? Yes, it's like a trap. Now, let's talk about the six men. The six men were special soldiers who Michael kept in his house at all times. Now, what are the important information about the six men? They were completely loyal to Michael. 2. 3 of them were from Mauritania and the others were foreigners. Half of them were in Strelso with the Duke, and the other half were at the castle of Zenda guarding the king, who was held a prisoner there. Now let's go to Rasandal, acting like a real king. Rasandal decided to keep some secrets, even from the people he could trust. His plan was to keep himself popular with the poor people of Strelso. He didn't want the poor people to side with Michael if there was a fight. He rode his horse through the park with Fritz and waved to everyone he bowed to him. He wanted the people to know that he cared about them. And he didn't want to be a distant king who people only heard about, and pay attention to this point. And he had gone to see Princess Flavia to get her support. Finally, he said that he and Michael needed to help and support each other. That's all about acting like a real king. Now let's go to the last and the most important part in this chapter. Michael is a wild animal. Michael arrived at Flavia's palace. At this time, Resendel didn't realize that Michael was waiting outside as he couldn't enter without the king's permission, so he must have a permission from the king. Resendel said that his hand was hurt because an animal bit him, and he meant by the animal Michael. He meant Michael, so the animal is Michael. Resendel thanked Michael for the splendid coronation. Splendid means beautiful coronation. Michael introduced 3 of his 6 men to Rodolph Resendel. He didn't introduce the 6 men, but he introduced 3 of them. Ditchard smiled when Resendel spoke to him in English. And finally, Resendel was sure that all the 6 men knew that he wasn't the real king. Finally, thank you so much for watching the video, and if you have any question you can ask me in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and share, and hope to see you again. See you.